Hello, anti-novelists. Another video from Victoria on using the Zettelkasten for fiction. However, I'm going to depart from the note cards because I've gotten a specific question about how do I plot out my actual stories. So we're going to set aside the note cards for now, and I'm going to give you a quick overview of how I actually plot out what happens in a story. It all begins with a timeline. A timeline is a large piece of easel paper for me, where I begin at the earliest year that I know. In this case, this one starts at 1879 because that's when my male character is born. So it moves forward in time, 1900, 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, and so forth, all the way up to when my main female character is born. And then it goes through her young life, and it ends with a breakdown of when she's in school, when she's in college, what ages she is during that time period. So I really have it dialed in what's happening from year to year in broad strokes, okay? That's the main beginning timeline. Then I digitize that. And using the 4-act plot architecture, which we will talk about the 4-act versus the 3-act story structure later. Let's put a pin in that. But suffice it to say, most people say there are 3 acts in a story. This is where I punch Aristotle in the face and I say, no, there's actually 4. There's Act 1 and 2 that take place before the midpoint, and there's Act 3 and 4 which take place after the midpoint. So I will always refer to them in 4 acts of story structure. So once our timeline is finished, then I'm going to digitize. This is just a digital Excel spreadsheet of everything that is written out by hand on the timeline. So you will notice there are yellow highlighted areas. Those yellow areas are all part of the beats, the 32 beats that take place in a plot. Doesn't mean you're going to use all 32 of them. However, it's a nice guideline to use as stepping stones that help drive you through the plot. So each thing that could happen, each thing that I think, oh, maybe I need this to happen here, maybe I need this to happen over there, I'm just filling those things out as I go along down my Excel spreadsheet. So again, I'm just following the year date stamps and plugging in the things that I think may need to happen in certain places. That way I have a basic roadmap. The next thing I do is I really start to dial it in. This is where the magic happens. My main story takes place in 2019. So I've printed out a 2019 calendar. It begins around March 1st. So this gives me an overview of what days fall when, so that I know that I'm true to the story when I'm talking about what day things happen. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy landscape size, right? A 4-person planning calendar. Now, I like to do them in packets. So I'm literally just going to take one page of a 4-person calendar and copy it, 100 times, and that gives me 100 days of 4 people. Or I'll get to the next iteration in a second, but you can do it however you want. You can photocopy your own. You can just draw columns on a page. It doesn't matter. I just like these calendar pages because they already have the timestamps down the left margin, and they give you 4 columns so you can have 4 different people that you're working on at a time. So this allows me in column 1 to see my main male character Branch, and he's blue, right? My second column is Tara. She's pink. So now I know this is Thursday, February 28th, 2019. I know where the 2 of them are starting at 7 in the morning, and I can start to juxtapose their day and how that moves my story forward. I've also got an orange column. Orange is for my antagonist. So this is going to tell me where my bad guys are at any given time. So let's go over to Friday, March 1st of 2019. So I've got where Branch is, and I've got him coming into the city where Tara is. I've got Tara going to newly meet someone that's going to be a key player for her. And then I've got a few notes about what happens and when they actually meet. Now you'll notice I've abstracted a note out here into the empty column. This is for notes, things I need to remember, notes I need to make to myself, questions I might have to ask. And this says, at 12 o'clock, Branch examines the book. And I've made myself a note. What happens when he does that? Well, I've circled this note. It's off camera. So this tells me I don't need a scene that shows him examining this book because I'm going to refer to it later. So I don't need to show that in a scene. So this is just another way that you're helping guide yourself through the important beats of the story so that you know where you're headed, hour by hour, day by day. The final iteration is an actual planner. This one is recycled from 2022. I actually got it for myself and hated it for what I was going to use it for. So I sat on it for a year, and now it's going to get repurposed for the next iteration of my story because I'm ready to start writing from the midpoint to the end. So this is a 4-person daily calendar. First thing I did is I went through and I put in my color key so that I know what colors represent each of my main characters. And then I'm simply going to start, which I haven't started doing this yet, so you get to follow along as I do it. I go through and I've whited out the date, okay, because I want to create my own dates. This is from 2022. My story takes place in 2019. So I'm going to begin on Wednesday. I'm going to date this March 1st because that's when the story starts. I'm going to do my 4 character colors of Branch, Tara, probably the antagonist, and then I'm not sure what I'm going to use this column for yet because I'm not sure who I need to track early on in the story. But this is how I'm going to continue to develop out what happens hour by hour, day by day for each character, and I will flow it through the life of the story, which should take about 50 days to complete from beginning to end. So I hope that helps. This was a quick overview. I will go further in depth in this series into each of these parts and walk you through at what point your Zettelkasten cards come into play and at what point you start creating new plot points and pushing that story out further to the end. So I hope this quick overview helped. There will be lots more in this series talking about plot development and how you plot using a recycled planner and a 4-person scheduling notebook plan. So thank you very much. I'll see you next time.